Today, we're going to talk a little bit about webhooks and how Oomnitza can integrate with your existing processes. First, let's clarify a couple of definitions. What is a webhook? It might sound fancy, but it's really a very simple concept. A webhook is just an alert tied to an event that triggers an action in or by another system. Let's break that down a bit. An event is something that happens in a system you manage. Maybe not in Oomnitza, but in something like CrowdStrike, Azure, Jira, Zendesk, or ServiceNow. An alert is a monitor you set on that event to say, hey, when this event happens, I want to do something in another system. And that's really all there is to it. It's not that complicated. You might see discussions online about whether to use a webhook or an API, but that's somewhat an odd distinction because webhooks typically use APIs to perform actions in another system. So, that's what a webhook is. Now, what is Oomnitza? Oomnitza is a platform that allows you to implement IT business processes as applications. We provide unified asset visibility, lifecycle management, data hygiene improvement, audit preparation, and workflow automation. If you're here, it's likely because you like Oomnitza and the idea of what it can do around asset and software management, lifecycle management, workflows, dashboards, policy audit compliance, and so on. Or maybe you would like it if you weren't worried that it might force you to change a lot of your existing processes. Perhaps you're wondering if there's a way to gradually integrate Oomnitza into your existing business processes, updating things only when it makes sense. That's where webhooks come in. Virtually all enterprise systems now feature some mechanism for implementing a webhook, which is simply setting an alert to watch for an event and then doing something in response. That something is typically an API call, a REST API call, to whatever you like. Today, we're going to talk about that whatever you like being Oomnitza. So, what are some possible use cases for this? You probably already have some ideas, but if you don't, let's explore a few. From an event trigger perspective, you might have a third-party ITSM system and another third-party system, like an HRIS system, such as Workday or UltaPro, that is already creating tickets in your ITSM system. But you want to better integrate your IT processes with that. Maybe you want to create a shipping label automatically in response to the creation of a ticket in your ITSM system. You don't want your service desk person to have to do that manually. You want it to happen automatically. Or maybe you just want to get an alert when a vendor has made a payment on an invoice. You also have near real-time monitoring available to you. For instance, you could open a ticket in response to a security event, although that's probably already managed by your security monitoring tool. What's not managed, however, is the additional work you could do with those assets, such as automatically creating firewall rules, removing the asset, or locking the asset. There are many other use cases, like updating your HVAC controls in response to a temperature threshold or sending an alert based on a camera detecting something. Now, let's talk about our use case for today. This example is somewhat manufactured, in the sense that I've created it, but it does come directly from my experience. It's not manufactured in the sense that it doesn't happen. I suspect this use case will resonate with virtually everyone here. So, let's outline it. Our organization has an existing custom integration between an HRIS system and an ITSM system that we don't want to change. Now, this is often code for HIRS doesn't want to play ball with the rest of IT. They have a process that works, and they really don't want to change it just because IT has decided they need better asset management, software license management, procurement management, or cloud management. HRIS is happy with what they've got. Maybe someday they'll warm up to the idea that we can integrate with the HRIS system, but for now, they don't want to change it. They create a ticket in our ITSM system in response to an event, like onboarding or offboarding. The problem is that once it hits IT, we've found it very inefficient for the service desk to create multiple tickets from that offboarding ticket. I have an offboarding ticket, and now I'm going to have my Tier 1 service desk person create multiple tickets based on that user's profile. Some are standard, like removing them from core systems, maybe Office 365, but then I need to create a ticket for the desktop team to recover hardware, and maybe another ticket for the core app team to deactivate access to certain core applications like Salesforce. I might also need to create a ticket for internal or boutique applications where the configuration is not SSO or federated and happens specifically in the app. But what we found is that it's really inefficient for the service desk person to create a handful of tickets based on this parent ticket. And sometimes they even miss something. For example, they might forget that the user was a developer, so they didn't create the ticket for the core app team to remove them from GitHub. So now you have people offboarding who still have access to these SaaS systems or one-off systems. We found this process inefficient and inconsistent, and we'd like to automate it where possible while integrating with our existing process. HRIS doesn't want to change, and we're creating the ticket today, but we really don't want to build out automation in our ITSM system because it won't be able to do a lot of the things we need. For example, updating the status of a user if they're offboarding, tracking their equipment, requesting that equipment from the user, generating a shipping label, sending that to the user, and creating a tracking number. These are things the ITSM system can't do, but Oomnitza can if we can figure out how to connect the dots.